Are we ready to go?
Born ready. Want me to intro? Welcome to the Console Crusade podcast. I don't know what you usually say after that, but today we're talking about remakes, remasters, and remixes. I'm your boy, Nick Durheim, and joining me today, as always, EJ Olson.
Stop it. No.
You've been usurped.
Oh, no. All right, okay, all right. It's going to make it anyway. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Console Crusade podcast. Here we talk retro games, video game news, and never our secret bunkers filled with World War II era MREs. I am EJ Olson, and as always, I am joined by EJ Olson. Wait, that is not right. This is Nick Durheim, and we're off to a great start here.
Did I throw you off?
You fucked me up with that fucking bit at the beginning.
Also, what does MRE stand for? Something ration?
Meals ready to eat. They're disgusting, dude. I watched a video of a guy. They opened up literally World War II era MRE. It was like this disgusting fermented like egg dish. Came in a tin can. I don't think they ate it, if I recall, because that probably would have killed them. But it was pretty nasty. They were gagging and shit.
I haven't watched any of them, but I have heard that there are channels that review old rations from old wars and stuff. Apparently, the worst one was like the either Vietnam or Korean War rations were like really, really gross.
You know, it's pretty nifty the way they do them now. Like, they come all packaged up and they cook themselves, and you know they look pretty decent. I imagine if you're like out in the fucking desert and you've been awake for 72 hours, like this would be a 4-star meal, man.
Oh yeah, beggars can't be choosers.
Anyway, we're not going to talk about disgusting egg meal and fucking baby back rib in a bag.
Oh, you don't know that. You don't know what games I've got on my list.
Well, so what are we talking about today? We were Skyping and we were talking about what the hell we wanted to record. And I just said, let's just talk about something nobody cares about, and that's HD remakes that we want to see in the future.
Slam dunk.
Slamma-jamma. Welcome
Which reminds me, I should put that on my. Never mind.
Don't talk. Yeah. Oh. Little spoiler alert.
You start.
All right. So I just We literally
Should we go by any sort of semblance of order? Should we go by like console? Go by genre? What do you want to talk about?
No, I'm going in the order I listed them in, and I started just thinking about them off the top of my head, and then I went into my backlog or my spreadsheet I have, and just started looking through and looking at my favorite games and seeing which ones would be good for whether an HD remake, just a packaged re-release like we've been seeing with like the Mega Man collections, like. They're not HD remakes.
But you can play them on a HD like TV. You don't have to plug it into a CRT.
Yeah, and they're nice. They're cute little packages with extras and whatever. So just things of that nature.
Cute little packages.
Yeah, you've got a cute little package.
Oh, I know.
We're done here.
How about this? One stipulation, just to keep us slightly organized. Let's go 2D then 3D.
Oh shit! I gotta So wait. 2D than 3D. Are we talking final product or original game was a 2D game?
Original.
The original product was a 2D game. Okay. Oh, that's tough. That's like, I have a couple games that like, no, okay. All right.
See, I already disagree with everything you're saying because I would never want a 2.5D remake of a originally 2D game.
Here's what we're going to argue.
Like if I had my choice, like with Return of Samus Returns, that whole remake thing, I would much rather have that be a sprite-based game.
Absolutely.
But the fact that it's a 2.5D game doesn't extremely like turn me off. It's just the 3DS is just a bad resolution. The 3D games kind of look bad on that system in general.
Absolutely. No, I wish, a nice hand-drawn, sprite-based game. Like, I'm yearning for it, Nick. But anyway, so okay, I got to reorganize my list then. 2D to 3D or 3D to 2D?
2D first, then 3D.
Okay, it shouldn't be as hard then.
And I guess I have one that I would accept a 3D remake of.
Okay.
We'll get to that when you get to that. But how about I start off?
Give me what you got while I rejigger my list here.
So when I think of a 2D remake and what an exemplary example of that is, is that redundant? I think of the Wonder Boy remake that just came out, which I haven't played, but I've seen, and it looks like really nice. Generally, I think hand-drawn sprites don't look that great, but when it's matching up one-to-one the animations from an original sprite, it turns out looking like pretty good.
Yeah.
And I would really like a remake in that style of the 2D Castlevania games that were on handheld.
Okay.
So we've got the 3 Game Boy Advance games, and I think there were 3 or 4 on the DS. I just wrote down Circle of the Moon, which is the first on the Game Boy Advance, then Harmony of Dissonance, then Aria of Sorrow and Dawn of Sorrow, which is the 2 back-to-back sequels, and then Portrait of Ruin and Order of Ecclesia. And I actually haven't played through any of them all the way through, but I have started and enjoyed Circle of the Moon, and I've played a little bit of Aria of Sorrow just to kind of get a feel for that. But I think those games would lend themselves really well with a hand-drawn like trace over the sprite and really let like the beauty of those games shine through in an HD version. And Konami's not really doing anything with that IP anyway, so
might
they
as
just put
well.
a Bomberman for the 100th time. So what are they doing? They got nothing better to do than Pachinko and Metal Gear Vengeance,
Whatever that is.
Revive, something, that weird survival game.
Yeah, I don't know. That went in one ear, out the other. Yeah, I think that'd be a really great use of that IP. Not the best use, because a new, Castlevania game would be the best use, but they haven't...
Let them pull a Konami. I mean, they're not going to make any new games, so rehash an old one. Give the people what they actually want. At least make money off of it.
We have Bloodstained Ritual of the Night coming. That's going to basically just be a Castlevania game, right?
Yeah, but it's 2.5D, and I don't think it looks very good. It's got a very janky kind of, definitely kickstarted kind of vibe to it.
The initial art that they released for it got me really excited. And then I saw some of the gameplay later down the line, and yeah, the 2.5D thing doesn't work for me. Like, just go all in on the hand-drawn thing, or go all in on the 3D thing. Like,
I think 2.5D can look good. It's just it's very dependent on the art style. Simplified, big, blocky, kind of looks better in that style, with like few exceptions, but it needs a big, huge coat of paint on that to make it look actually good.
I can't remember the last time I saw a 2.5D.
Smash Bros.
What?
Smash Bros. Always looks great, and it's always 2.5D.
Is that what you consider 2.5D?
Yeah. It's 3D models on a 2D plane.
Okay, so when I think 2.5D, I'm thinking like 3D models against a flat backdrop. Like the environments are still 3D, even though you're on a 2D plane.
Well, it's never actually a flat background.
Well, I have to go look at pictures of Bloodstained. That's exactly what Bloodstained, isn't it?
No, it's got actual 3D backgrounds. There's even parts where it like does the thing where it's like revolving staircase, but it keeps it a flat pane. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm thinking like
where the
older,
background kind of moves.
Like even older Street Fighter games did that, where they were definitely literally 2D backgrounds. Oh, see, this picture I'm looking at, it looks like a fucking sprite-based. Okay,
No, it's totally rendered.
And then a rendered character. That's
it might have been rendered or just like a picture in the like older footage, but the newer footage that I've seen, like since this past E3,
okay,
it was all rendered background.
Okay,
But yeah, that's what I think of as 2.5D. Is everything's rendered, but it's only one plane of movement.
Well, then fuck me. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, that'd be really cool. A Castlevania. Let me see. Do I have anything going back that far?
That's as far back as I went. I mean, mostly. Actually, I have a couple. I have a Super Nintendo game series that I would like to see remade.
I wonder if it's probably not the same as what I put down here. But I put down. We talked about it a little bit earlier. The Donkey Kong Country trilogy. And
I want to know, do you want that to be like CG-ified, or would you want to like take the original models that they turned into sprites and like make that like how deep of a remake do you want from that?
I mean, if those old 3D models are available, how just geeky would that be?
That'd be so gross looking. I guarantee it, but it'd be so tight at the same time.
Yeah, like just take those models and put new textures on them, and it's like.
Don't even do that. Keep the original textures and everything.
Well, what's the damn point of a remake then?
Well, just that you'd be able to up-res it and see it at a resolution that wasn't 256 by 224 or whatever the SNES put out.
No, I think it'd be awesome, and what's going to become a running theme, I think, with a couple of these games is the assets already exist. Retro, I don't know, who knows what they're working on now, but they've got the assets, they've got the engine. It'd be really quick to make a remake of, whether it's one or all three or whatever.
The Country Returns games have a completely different physics to them than the original TKC games did.
That's true.
So it wouldn't be as easy as just like taking the template of the levels and copy pasting the characters in. Also, you never actually control Diddy by himself in Donkey Kong Country Returns, so they'd have to like actually remake that. So I mean, keeping the assets, yeah, you'd save time with that, but
it'd be a bigger project than I'm giving credit.
Probably. I mean, to do one, I think would probably take a solid year at the very least, if they don't run into any problems. I
mean, that's what I like to see it though, especially because Retro seems to be off of Donkey Kong.
They hired that music guy has previously worked on Deus Ex, and that's why a lot of people thought that they were still doing like Samus, because that guy does really like industrial, like sci-fi kind of sounds.
Right. Have we heard any word about who's doing Metroid 4?
Just Tanabe, who's like he's Samus's like creator basically.
Right.
Has been heading Metroid for a long time, and then it has said a new group of developers. So probably just a younger team, something like they did with Splatoon.
Yeah. Well, it's actually funny because jumping ahead a little bit, Metroid Prime Trilogy is on my list.
And I know what you think about that, but I also think it would take a lot more than just remapping the controls and giving it a higher resolution and retexturing for that game to actually feel good. Because of how it was created with the controls in mind, so the balance would be completely different.
Well, the Metroid Prime Trilogy re-release on the Wii gave us exactly the controls we wanted, except for you had to use the Wii Remote Plus to do it. Just instead of having your other hand pointing where you want to go, let me do that with a thumbstick, and it's essentially the same thing.
I mean, I never played I bought the trilogy, but I only started Metroid Prime before I got distracted with other new games. But I don't know how well those were actually balanced, considering the controls or not. I don't know.
It felt so much better, man. And wouldn't even need a retexture. The assets are there. You could release that. You could do what you did with Twilight Princess, which is pretty much just put out what was available on the Wii. I would eat that up. Finally, just a modern way to play the original Metroid trilogy. I mean, Metroid Prime Trilogy on the Wii is the way to play it. It's the most comfortable, I guess, but using the Waggle controls is still not ideal.
I think it does give the 16:9 widescreen also too, if I'm not mistaken.
If you have it hooked up with the old component cables there. The Wii was such a weird thing in a weird time.
I think even playing the Wii games on the Wii U with the HDMI, I think it does the scaling.
They look so bad though. Just they're muddy and fuzzy and the colors are muted. It just doesn't look right.
It's like 720i.
Yeah, you're better off hooking up a Wii with component cables here.
Well, no, that's like the max resolution the Wii could do.
I think the max resolution the Wii could do was...
Or 1080i, not 720i.
Yeah, 1080i or 480p.
Which is still worse than 720p.
Well, I guess it depends on a few things, but yeah, interlace generally looks like absolute garbage. But anyway, Metroid Prime Trilogy, especially coming into Metroid 4, like maybe this could be a little like kind of a bonus, maybe a year after Metroid Prime 4 comes out, assets and engine available.
They're never going to re-release the trilogy. I mean, they threw us a bone by putting on the Wii U, but that was almost like spitting in the wound,
After
and the original release of the trilogy sold really dismally, even compared to Metroid Prime 3 by itself.
You were just giving me those numbers. What were some of those numbers? Do you have those off the top of your head?
I believe the trilogy sold 600,000 on the Wii, and Prime 3 sold like 1.4, 1.5. Also does really terribly in Japan, and Nintendo looks at their Japan sales. It's very important to them. They're a very Japanese company.
That's curious to me. That 600,000 units on a console, the best selling console of all time. Like that's fucked up, or second best, or whatever. No wonder we haven't heard anything about it. Nintendo said this is an abject failure and just moved on with their lives until the internet cried enough about it over the last decade or whatever. But yeah, no, I think who knows? Maybe if Metroid Prime 4 comes out and does gangbusters, they look and say, hey, let's do a quick remake in this engine with these assets and throw that out there for $60 and capitalize on this newfound success.
I doubt they'd use the same engine. That's the opposite of quick. And they wouldn't have the structure in place to port a Wii game to the Switch. I think they probably have the tools now to have a quick turnaround for a Wii U game to Switch, especially with all the work they did with Breath of the Wild and having that release on the same day. They'll probably have better developer options for that, but for the Wii, nah.
Just a complete remake then. Ground up.
Unless we get like a GameCube emulator, and even at that point, they would just put out the same game. They would just sell it as is.
I don't want that. People keep crying for GameCube Virtual Console, but I'm like, the best games on GameCube, we have either better versions of Smash Bros, Mario Kart, whatever, or we have better remakes of available, and I would rather have the Wii Virtual Console playing some of these games and those remakes than the GameCube. Everyone wants Mario Sunshine or whatever. I'd rather have an HD remake of Mario Sunshine than just a straight virtual console version.
It would depend on the price for me. I would rather spend $20 on a virtual console version of that game in particular than spend 40 or 60 on a remake. Because I don't think making the assets look better would like justify the price jump.
That is something I agree with. Knowing Nintendo, it would be a full price release.
And then, like you were saying with like Double Dash, that's one thing. But for something like Smash Bros, that's like a fighting game that still has a tournament scene. I think that it'd be better to have that as a virtual console release than a remake.
But the game, I just feel like that'd cause more complications. You know, the people who are playing it in tournament scene and being this hardcore about it, they don't want to play it on anything but a GameCube with a GameCube controller. So the virtual console release.
Well, there's nothing keeping the Switch from having the GameCube adapter work with it.
But there are all sorts of things with the input would be different. The way it displays is different.
It just depends on how they get the emulator to work. I mean, if it's they know the hardware, they made it, right? So if they can get the latency down, then people would rather play it with like an HD TV than being stuck with a CRT in some cases. I don't know. Also, it's just Melee games are never going to increase in quantity. They're never going to reprint Melee and like on the GameCube disc.
Right.
So there comes a point in the future where there's literally no more like Melee discs.
Well, then at that point, you know, you burn a damn disc.
Oh yeah, let me see your GameCube burner.
Hey man, it's possible, right? Not that I'm into bootlegging games as a collector. I don't do that shit. But no, it'd be awesome if Nintendo, like, if they could do something, not that they would ever work with the guys behind the Dolphin emulator, but if they could do something similar.
Oh no.
And we were actually getting these enhanced versions just through emulation, I'd be on board for that.
The best thing that Nintendo has done with the Dolphin emulator is not completely try and shut it down. People always complain about, oh man, Nintendo sent a cease and desist to AM2R or whatever Pokemon fan game someone made. But at the same time, they let them post it. So it's there. And then they did the thing that they had to do, which is protect their own IP. So I think Nintendo is not like necessarily a big bad like guy who's preventing people from making works. It's just that they have to protect their IP, or else that gives people who would steal from them with like more like malice. It gives them an example to be like, well, you let them do it.
I don't think it would affect them either way. It's such a drop in the fucking barrel.
If anything, sending a cease and desist gives these developers more, it gives them media coverage. No one would have heard of AM2R if they didn't get shut down.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think that's why the guy did the damn thing. He spent a decade building or how long did he develop that game for? Almost a decade.
Yeah, probably.
And like, you don't do that because you want to like get your 15 minutes of fame. Like, you do it because you love the game and you want people to play, you know, this version.
You can want both.
I guess you can hope for one, but that's not like the catalyst for diving into such a ridiculous project.
I just think there's no such thing as true altruism. So, sorry.
Well, I mean, fair enough. But I also don't think you probably went into that, spent 10 years on it just thinking it's going to be up for 24 hours before Nintendo shuts me down. You know, and other companies
It's obvious. Like, there's been like 100 different cases of that happening. So why do people still do it?
Well, 10 years ago, it wasn't happening the way it is now. Now it's so much easier for
You're right. He started working on it 10 years ago, and then he hasn't been on the internet since then.
He's gone dark, dude. He went underground to develop
He's just
this
typing
game.
away on like the Gmax. Just I'm programming with my Tandy laptop.
Oh, God.
Click, click, tap, tap, tap.
No, I mean, I think there are plenty of other companies who don't do this with their IPs, and they understand.
You mean like Sega, who has like no money? Sega needs as many wins as they can get. Nintendo doesn't need someone else to make their game for them.
No, fair enough. I just, as far as like what it means for different artists to be able to express themselves and have these, and as fans to have these experiences that Nintendo's not giving us. Like, I get it from a business standpoint. You got to protect your IP, whatever. But as far as the Dolphin thing goes, I don't think like the legality behind that. I think there's a reason they haven't been shut down. It's because they can't legally do it. They're not taking anything directly from Nintendo
that we know of,
or that Nintendo knows of, or else they would probably shut it down.
I'm sure they check into it. I'm sure they keep a tab on it to make sure they're not like actually stealing code.
Yeah. So that's why these emulators still exist, is because there's not a lot these companies can do to protect
And
that.
we did see Nintendo going after NES and SNES emulators on mobile devices a couple years ago. Remember hearing about that?
Yeah, no, I wonder what the difference is.
I think they wanted to like potentially in the future get into that market themselves on mobile devices, and they were just like starting to actually make mobile apps. So I wonder if it was just sort of like a broad stroke kind of thing, or if it's they actually have interest in doing virtual console on a mobile device. I don't know. Speculation.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's move on from this whole nonsense. We have a huge list in front of us.
Tangent aside,
Give it to me. Give me.
I've got 3 N64 games
Okay, let's get right
that
into
I would
this.
like to see remade.
Let's do it.
The most obvious one being Mario 64.
Dude, Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mega Pack. Boom. Right after Mario Odyssey, capitalize on that success. Boom.
I mean, they don't need to do that, but like it would be cool to see a Mario 64 remade. We saw the Mario 64 DS, which I mean, you can't play that game with a D-pad. What were they thinking?
That was bad.
I mean, but they did add like cool new things to it. I actually played it, but like having Wario and like Luigi as playable characters, that interests me in a way.
Yeah,
But
Yoshi, Toad.
and as far as visually, you could just like spit on it and it would look better, you know? Like it's so easy to just take the physics of that game, because the physics in that game is so tight. I've watched innumerable videos of sort of showing how that game was made, and I'm impressed that they were able to like come up with that technology in 1996 when that game came out. So the physics are there, the gameplay is there. All I would ask is them to like tighten up the camera a little bit.
Camera control.
I know you're a huge whiner about how the camera controls, but I think that the camera works like 9 times out of 10 in that game. It's only when it gets like stuck on walls that it's like bad. But like the following, I think, is a necessary component to a lot of the game's platforming, because you can't jump and like do the necessary actions while you're controlling the camera. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I guess, but
You can't have your thumb on the right stick all the time. And if it's following you, then it gives you that's why I think 2D platforming games are just better than 3D games in general. That and being able to tell where you are spatially. I mean, you can only have a shadow below you to know where you're at in so many cases. Not while you're actually over platforms, but like the camera is the other big component to that. So having it follow you is the best way to have that figured out. And the game was designed with that in mind.
Nick, my problem is not that the camera follows you. I think that's perfectly fine. It does it in plenty of other 3D platformers. That's not a problem. The problem is that the camera, when you do move it, it does not behave the way you would expect it to behave, especially...
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be... yeah, like I know what you're saying, but it was with buttons back then. So
Right.
having it click made sense with how the C stick worked.
So I think there's room to let us have free control of the camera when we want it, but also have it when you let go, it's still dynamically moving in the way it needs to. I think there's a way to make it behave a little more modern and make everybody happy. And we're going to see it in Odyssey.
I thought you were more of a stickler about the camera following you.
No, I think that's
That
fine.
was the impression that I usually got.
No, I think we're going to see the modern version of this. Oh, we got it in Mario Sunshine. We saw how that worked a little better using the C stick.
Yeah, it's still... I don't know if it actually... Did it swoop, or was it still clicking? I don't remember, actually.
It's been a long time.
And I know they changed the way going up and down worked. Like it was really actually bizarre, and I'm not a big fan of the games that do this. Wind Waker does the same thing.
Yeah.
Where when you pull the camera back, it pans away from the character and points down, and then when you pan it forward, it like swoops in, and then you're looking at the sky also, which works all right in Zelda, but in a Mario game, it wasn't exactly the way I wanted it to be.
No, I think however they do it in Mario Odyssey, we're going to see if they just have this archaic system that they bring over from a game that came out 15 plus years ago, or if they're going to make something modern and comfortable. And if they do, boom, remake those 2 games, or even, I mean, it can be just Mario 64. It could be, but I think doing the dual pack and then kind of having this new trilogy.
Mario 64 has a lot better like optics on it. People remember that game very, very fondly. It's widely regarded as like one of the best games of all time, whereas Sunshine is kind of like the black sheep of the Mario family in general.
Which is crazy, because I think everything that Mario 64 did, Sunshine did better, even though it did a lot of different things.
People complain more about the level design and the mechanics of the world than they do about how the game controls.
Fair enough.
Which you couldn't really remake away. The other N64 game I have on my list is Star Fox 64, which I think is the pinnacle of the series.
Which is sad, because that was how many years ago?
Not like 97, 98.
How many games
there's been like 5 like main, I guess, Star Fox games. There was Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, Star Fox N64, Star Fox Adventure, Star Fox Assault, and then the new Star Fox that Zero. Star Fox 0 out of 100 on Metacritic. And then, various other DS and like 3DS remake, all that kind of stuff. But Star Fox 64 was a great, great game. Had a very arcade style, like campaign mode. The multiplayer was cool, but I think they could expand upon that a lot. And it could be really, really cool to get into dogfights and like hop online and like shoot down your buddies, get into lobbies, play as Star Wolf, have all those goofy little voice lines and all that kind of stuff. Keep the voice lines, by all means.
So my question for you then is, do you think that Star Fox Zero killed our chances of getting a classic Star Fox game in a modern package? Or is that just Miyamoto's baby? Is that Miyamoto?
Yeah.
Is that just is so beloved that he's going to just keep doing what he's doing regardless of reception?
Nintendo's been really weird about remakes in general. Like there's been 4 Zelda remakes, which is unprecedented.
Yeah.
They remade the original 3 Mario Bros. And Mario All-Stars and then ported those versions to the Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance kind of became a port machine for Super Nintendo games. But beyond that, we haven't really seen a lot of initiative from them to remake 3D games. So who's to say? There's literally no indicator that they have any intention of remaking 64 games. They just put them on the Virtual Console and called it good.
Yeah. Well, this is why it's our dream list, Things that'll never happen.
And then Dark Horse 3-point line for a remake, Pokemon Snap.
Oh, come on. That is like, we've been asking for that for so long. That'd be so easy to do. And
I mean, it would have been perfect on the Wii U gamepad, but why make the game that makes the most sense?
Or a 3DS, even with the gyroscope controls. And now the Switch. They've all got the same functionality.
Oh, yeah. They've had motion controls since the Wii. They've had motion controls for 10 years now. You think they would make a game that uses it right?
Well, Pokemon Snap, I think, is remembered fondly, but didn't do particularly well. And is a really...
Are you kidding me? I mean, it was a game that said the word Pokemon on the cartridge.
Give me some numbers.
I guarantee you. I will look it up for you right now.
Goddamn numbers.
I bet you it sold over 5 million copies, which is pretty good for a console that sold 36.
Oh, it only sold 36? I thought it was... Damn, that's less than I thought.
Something like that. It's like 30s.
Yeah, give me those numbers. 5 million would be...
Pokemon Snap 3.6. So I was a little short. Stadium sold 5.
Stadium was less of a game than
exactly
than Snap was. Wow. That was honestly though, that was a really cool gimmick when we were kids though.
Yeah, it was a cute game. I actually think that Hey You Pikachu would be kind of cool remade also. Imagine Hey You Pikachu on your phone.
Dude, that'd be 30 seconds of fun before I deleted the app.
People talk to Siri for minutes.
Minutes at a time.
I mean, take that voice recognition software and have Pikachu do funny stuff. People would do that. Why not? Have a little make it more like a Tamagotchi. Feed your Pikachu. People would do that. I guarantee it.
What year is it? Did they have Pokemon Tamagotchis back in the day?
I mean, there was the Pokemon. There's the GB Walker. Remember that for Gold and Silver?
Yeah.
And then they did that again.
For the remakes.
Well, they had the original one for the yellow, and then they did for Gold and Silver. Then they did the ones for Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
Yeah.
Which those were a little bit more intensive. Like you could transfer Pokemon over and then like battle Pokemon and capture Pokemon while you're walking around. Kind of interesting. A little bit too kitschy and like one note.
How did we go from, we said we were going to go from 2D to 3D, but we started a DKC trilogy and then moved right into 3D. So we're all over the place. So now that we're talking about Pokemon, let me bring up a little something here.
I did my 2D games mostly. The only other ones are like little ones that it's like whatever.
Okay. Well, I definitely have a few. But
we're just going to jump all over. Whatever.
Yeah, fuck it. We're talking Pokemon now. Obviously, something
Diamond Pearl.
Fuck you. We do not need... we can play that on the current generation. Why do we need a remake? Again. It's bad. Yeah, but Red, Blue, Crystal. Okay?
Oh, yeah. The best generation, Red, Blue, and Crystal.
Well, I'm saying... Come on. Those games...
We've never had a remake of the in-between game.
Well, Heart Gold and Soul Silver incorporated all of the Crystal's storyline.
So why would you need a remake of Crystal? It's already, you can play it on the current generation.
This is true, but hear me out.
Here's the thing, though.
Okay.
Pokemon Yellow.
What about it? It was the worst of the trilogy.
Oh boy. I don't know about that.
It did some good things. You
could get Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle.
Okay.
And Pikachu. You were Ash. There were Nurse Joys. There were Officer Jennies. It followed the anime kind of.
No.
It was kind of sick. Brock actually looked like Brock from the show.
As a 7-year-old, that was awesome. But in hindsight, it was just a tacked on gimmick to try and sell more copies of the same game.
And the same thing could be said about Crystal with Gold and Silver.
Crystal had a whole new
Having two
storyline.
versions makes it a whole gimmick to try and sell more copies. If we're talking about gimmicks to sell copies, how about we just talk about Pokemon in general?
Fair enough. No, I think, though, it'd be really awesome to get, you know, I don't know what they're doing with the new mainline Pokemon game, what that engine's going to look like, what the visually, how that's going to work, if they're going to keep the same sort of, you know, top down. Because Sun and Moon, to me, I appreciated that they try to get away from the typical Pokemon formula as far as like the visuals and the way it handled, but I think it failed miserably as a fully 3D game. Like the camera,
There's only
and the way
so
you moved
much you can
around.
do with. There's only so much you can do with the 3DS in general, though.
That's true.
I mean, most of the people with a 3DS don't have a new 3DS. They don't have the second stick. That's why the last Pokemon game and this next Pokemon game isn't going to utilize 3D at all.
Yeah. Well, I hope that however they do it, it doesn't have those weird zones that you have to. Every time you go to a new zone, it loads and then the camera angle changes, and it was just really clunky. It did not feel good whatsoever. So I hope they don't do that. But depending on how and what that looks like, give us the Pokemon Red Blue remake. Okay, we don't need two versions. Fuck the whole, like, knock that whole thing off. Come on. But give us the first gen remake and then give us the second gen remake because they were so closely related. I think that'd be really great to get like a dual pack where we go through Kanto and then we get to go through Johto and then go back to Kanto.
There's no way you're getting those in one game, though.
I know, but it's my dream,
Has
dude.
Pokemon ever sold a full game by itself? No.
It's my dream, all right? But even, you know, Heart Gold Soul Silver did the weird faux 3D thing. Like, that's what I think when I think of 2.5D. Like,
Well, that was sprites on a 3D background. They did that with Diamond and Pearl also.
were they 3D? The models were 3D, or were they fully like 2D sprites?
No, the backgrounds were like 2D, 3D sprites. It was a weird kind of mashup with the backgrounds because I remember walking up to buildings and it would like pan into view and like stretch and distort upwards.
You're right. They are just straight up sprites on the 3D.
The X and Y was the first 3D game.
Okay.
And they went full bore with that. They did like the character, the actual battle animations in 3D. That was so cool to see the first time, even as bad as it was on the 3DS screen. I can only imagine how good that would look if they actually put it on, say the Switch.
Yeah. On that device that they should be supporting and not that.
And they will be.
Well,
And that's enough for me. I mean, think about how long it took for them to make a DS game when that came out.
either way, however it works, if this were to ever happen, I'm fine with the way they sort of did the weird sprites on the 3D. I wish they'd go back to that, honestly. I kind of like that look.
Oh, yeah. Pokemon was like the last vestige of excellent sprite art.
Yeah, bring that back.
And it helped that they didn't have to like fully animate the battle animation sprites. And they kind of did like weird cheap tricks with like Diamond and Pearl where they would just sort of like wiggle.
But tell me how amazing that would be to go explore those worlds again in a fully fleshed out 3D environment on your big screen television.
Probably not that exciting, actually. All the buildings face the same direction. Who cares?
Well, they don't have to in a remake. Come on, man. You're fucking me up here.
Sorry. I was thinking too literally. Who knew I would do that?
But first gen and second gen, like I think if you have one, you have to have the other.
And they have been leaning really hard into the first generation. I mean, look at how Pokemon Go has kind of recaptured the zeitgeist.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, though, that was the time.
Millions of people played that game for weeks.
That was a crazy fucking time. Like, I mean, walking around down here, down by the UO campus, I mean, every chick in a sundress, every fucking like nerd in a poofy jacket walking around in 90-degree weather who hasn't left his apartment all year. Like, he was out.
And even all the jocks in their gator polos.
All of them. Every stereotype, all right? They were all out there, dude. And you walk by people and be like, you played Pokemon Go? Of course. Like, it was.
I just saw a Rhyhorn down the street. Oh, dude, that's sick.
I mean, I remember going to this place, this bar not too far down the street. We were playing pool, hanging out, and we look outside, and there's probably 30, 40 people swarm over to this spot. And we're like, instantly knew what they're doing. But it was just crazy to see, like, a dude on his motorcycle, and then, like, a mom and her child, and, like, just this motley fucking crew of people who came together to sit and just flick Pokeballs at,
Yeah, it was huge, and we're never going to see something that huge again. That was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing, I think.
I know, absolutely, I agree.
But still, it makes me excited that Pokemon is still a franchise, something that I've grown up with and has been a real thing in my life for the past 20 years. It's still capable of finding new people and even old people that haven't played a Pokemon game since Red and Blue, you know? That's tight.
This is the time to capture that nostalgia. Give us the remake. Give it to us.
Game Freak needs to turn their hat backwards and throw the Pokeball on that nostalgia grab. Shake once, shake twice, shake 3 times.
It appeared to be caught. Oh man. Well, anyway, all right. Give me your next game on the list. I still have 2 2D games, but we can wait.
Okay, I'll give you another 2D game.
Okay, give it to me.
So we haven't seen a game in the Puzzle League franchise in a long time.
Do we need one of those games?
That game originated as Tetris Attack on Super Nintendo, and I think, yeah, you know, those are fun games. I think that makes perfect sense for a mobile title.
Haven't they been putting those out on like 3DS? Like they keep rebranding them. Like there's a Kirby version coming out, right?
No, there hasn't been one since like 2009.
Oh, weird. Okay.
So I mean, the last one actually there was a Animal Crossing in-game game of it.
How meta.
Like, yeah, I mean, they have a bunch of those in-game versions of video games.
I think that would be like you said a mobile version?
Yeah, because it's a match 3 game. It's a tile-based flip game. I mean, I think a lot of the 3DS kind of puzzle games would fit really well on a mobile platform. And that's the place I'd want to play that kind of game. Like I'd want to play that. I'd want to play Picross on my phone, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Just so that we don't get like I don't want to see a Nintendo Direct where they're talking about Picross on Switch, you know?
Oh my God.
That's the opposite of exciting.
You know, I bought Puyo Puyo Tetris and I got into the Tetris side of things pretty hard, but I'm like, I spent a lot of money on this game and it really wasn't worth it.
Puyo Pop's still a really cool game, and I played a lot of Kirby's Avalanche when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And that's another Puyo game. I think the Genesis one was like Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
What was that?
Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
I'm having all sorts of strange flashes in my brain right now as to what
Eggman's racially insensitive puzzle game.
Dude, simpler time.
Oh, surely.
I don't have anything to say about Pokemon Puzzle League or whatever the newest iteration would be.
Well, do you have anything to say about Advance Wars and seeing Intelligent Systems revisit something not Fire Emblem?
So I never played Advance Wars.
Imagine Fire Emblem, but instead of moving around characters, you're moving around like troops. And instead of just one troop, you're moving around like, oh, here's 5 troops. And then you can attack someone who has 4 troops and they do a little bit better than if they have 8 troops. It's a little more tactical, less waifu.
I mean, sure, yeah. I'd love to experience a game like that. Like, they're on my list of games to check out on the Game Boy Advance, but as far as, would you rather see a new game or do they need to remake one of the other ones?
I don't think it's likely for us to see a new game in that franchise just because Intelligent Systems is going full bore in Fire Emblem. So if they could get like a third party little, Mercury Steam type deal, just draw over this game on the Game Boy Advance and make it 16:9 and pop it out, people would probably buy that. And there's an indie game that's coming out that's very much so Advance Wars, but with like a more fantasy medieval kind of setting. Just like the way it plays is more like Advance Wars, and I feel like that's got a lot of people excited for that just because it's like that game.
For the same reason I wouldn't want a Fire Emblem remake. There are no Fire Emblem games I think need to be remade.
Wait, what was the last Fire Emblem game you just bought?
That's different. They basically,
because that's a remake.
All they did was take the story, and flesh it out. It's not really a remake. It's a whole new game. It's a whole new experience. Bunch of new characters, a whole storyline. I mean, it's a reimagination.
That's the difference between a remake and a remaster.
It's a reimagining, Nick.
But it's the same game.
I mean, I guess the difference between a remake and a remaster. Yeah, I mean, it's really not the same game. The Advance Wars games, I think, would just be better suited to getting a virtual console release, and because those games still play flawlessly. If it's anything like the old Fire Emblem games,
yeah, that'd be fine. But like as far as just making it look better, scaling that up would look better.
Sure.
Because of the way the sprites are, like how small they are on the screen in general in the first place, sizing them up, you lose a lot of the nuance that they had on the screen scale to begin with. Whereas like even like a Fire Emblem game on Virtual Console, the sprites don't look good when you blow them up. They look good when they're small because of how detailed they are, but you blow those details up and then everything just looks blocky and messy.
Right.
The Game Boy Advance is at a really, really low resolution, so you'd be looking at like 4 pixels per one or like more than that, like 9 per 1.
You know, when you said remake, I'm picturing a 3D, like, you know, like what Fire Emblem did with Echoes, which I think was, I get why they did it. I think it just helped them. It was more a marketing thing. Like, we're going to remake a game from the past. And, you know, it was easy to transfer story and characters.
I'd rather it be closer to what Superstar Saga is getting.
Yeah.
Where it's still sprite art, but it's higher resolution. I mean, just barely. The fucking 3DS is such a bad resolution. Oh my God.
Garbage.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I think that remake looks awesome. It's just, here's a modern way to play a classic. But again, did we need a 3D remake when, especially on the 3DS? Like, if that were coming to the Switch, that's one thing.
Well, it's not a 3D remake. That game's not in 3D at all, not even stereoscopic. They're totally moving away from that. I mean, they're putting out a new 2DS. I don't think any game from now on is going to be pushing 3D.
God, when does that drop?
October 6th.
No, I'm talking about the new 2DS XL.
Oh, that's August, I believe.
No, July. Okay.
Oh, July.
I might pick one up. I don't know yet.
I would, but I have a 3DS and I don't play anything on it. So I'd have spent $150 to play nothing on a new 2DS.
I would, but I'm not going to.
Well, you will because you're broken.
Well, you know, in 20 years when I'm trying to play these games with my kids and you can't buy a 3DS anymore, I'm going to be glad I have 5 of them.
In 20 years, we're both going to be dead.
That'd put us in our mid-40s, yeah. And we don't live healthy lifestyles, so fair enough.
No, I had Jimmy John's earlier. I'm ready to go.
Hey, man, I had lettuce on it, right?
Technically.
Lettuce is technically not bad for you. It's 98% water or whatever.
Dr. Olson on the case.
Yeah, don't listen to me. I had chicken wings and cookie dough for breakfast.
All right, tell me another game that's on your list. I'm tired of this depressing talk.
Okay, so I had to go through and delete Metroid Prime Trilogies off the fucking list. All right, I've got a couple of really random games and a couple of like, big name games that we've talked about before. So I'm going to go deep cut. And this would be, you know, subject to licensing issues and who the fuck knows. Okay, but give me Simpsons Road Rage, either a sequel or a complete overhaul of the original game.
That was a fantastic game.
But there was Simpsons Road Rage and there was Simpsons
Hit and Run.
Hit and Run.
Road Rage was the Crazy Taxi clone. Hit and Run was the GTA clone.
Okay, so I'm thinking of Road Rage. Perfect.
Yeah, Road Rage was sick.
Fuck yeah.
Sega isn't because I believe that actually got sued by Sega.
Really?
Because it was copying exactly what Crazy Taxi is.
That's such like a thin. Like, how many games copy the concept of other games?
Well, I mean, this is
Nintendo fucking sued every platformer that ever came out after Mario.
This is early 2000s, and Nintendo did sue other platformers. We can't say that Nintendo hasn't sued anyone because they have.
Over the Mario similarities?
I'm not going to give you a case because I can't think of one at the top of my head. But yes, they have.
We'll look into it later.
Yeah, Sega isn't really doing anything with Crazy Taxi. I believe they have a mobile title, but
woof.
Who wants that? I mean, it doesn't need to be Simpsons. It's just that because it was Simpsons, it had a really funny, had funny dialogue and stuff.
I want The Simpsons. I don't want to play Crazy Taxi.
I don't want The Simpsons. The Simpsons was cool, but it doesn't need to be Simpsons. It could be South Park Hit and Run for all I care.
That would also be fucking cool. I would play the shit out of that.
Attach a funny license to it. Even Family Guy Hit and Run could be funny. Who cares?
I wouldn't play that. I fucking hate that show. I hate that fucking show.
You don't actually hate it. You like the idea of hating it. It's an easy punching bag.
Absolutely. I've never enjoyed that show. I was an American Dad guy.
You're lying. You're lying.
No, I was an American Dad fella.
Dude, the first few seasons was really good.
Of Family Guy?
Yeah.
Well, when the first 3 seasons were airing, I wasn't old enough to watch it.
Yeah, but then it got on Adult Swim and you watched it every night. Whether you liked it or not.
That's not true. Growing up, I watched Simpsons and I watched Futurama, even though I don't like that show now. I watched the crap out of it growing up. I know. I don't know, man. I still like it.
I don't know why people. I mean, I understand Simpsons is really important and people like it, but if you like The Simpsons now, you're literally an old person now.
It's not. Yeah, it's not a very funny show. It's not something I can watch.
And it hasn't been. I don't think it's ever been really good.
Whoa, hot takes from fucking Nick DeRime over here.
Whatever. I'm not 30. I don't like The Simpsons. Sorry.
But you're almost 30. That's not.
I'm not even almost 30. I'm halfway there,
dude.
Not literally.
If you got to round up, bro. I'm halfway to 30. You're going to be 30 in 4 years. We're old. Oh, my God.
I just turned 15, so I'm halfway there.
Damn, you look like shit for your age.
Are you kidding me? This beard on a 15-year-old? That'd be impressive.
I think you had that beard at 15.
I literally didn't.
God damn it. I still can't grow a beard, so.
I would have been a sophomore.
You were growing facial hair as a sophomore, man.
Not much.
Oh, you didn't have like...
Not well.
I don't know. Anyway, any fucking way. Simpsons Road Rage. I would love it to be Simpsons, or like you said, South Park would be awesome, but I have the nostalgia for the Simpsons IP. I think that'd be cool to bring back just as a, like I said, a nostalgia thing. I'd play the fuck out of it. I played that when I moved the last time. I hooked up my PlayStation. That's the first game I put in. Was I popped, and it, load times are absolutely heinous.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still fucking fun as shit. So.
And Simpsons, they are present in games, like just on mobile titles. Simpsons Tapped Out makes so much money.
I've never heard of that.
It's a mobile title. That's all I know about it. I think it's a wrestling game.
I mean, that's fucking weird. Explains why I've never heard of it.
It still makes money. And I believe there's even like a city builder Simpsons game.
That sounds weird. But
well, like I said earlier off the podcast, but shovelware games are on phones now.
That's interesting. I never thought about it because you still go into Walmart and you see the section of old DS and Wii games. It's all just the drivel.
No one's buying them because they're playing the free version that has ads on their phone.
Yeah,
because it's the lowest common denominator.
Exactly. I'm trying to think like the last time. Like there's still some stuff. Like we got the Hello Kitty kart racers on Wii U, which sells for a lot of money. I picked up a copy for like literally $3 at Fred Meyer, and.
Go over that full collection?
No. I bought it because I knew it was worth something, and I ended up flipping it for a lot more money, which is something that I have talked a lot of shit about people doing, but I think it's a lot different when you are selling something that has no value and that a very niche audience wants.
Sound off in the comments below to give EJ as much crap as you can.
Yeah. I mean, am I being a hypocrite for doing something like that? I bought Hello Kitty to flip.
I have no horse in this race.
Versus like buying something that everybody wants just to make a profit on it. I think there's a huge difference morally and, monetarily.
So the next game on my list.
Fuck you, motherfucker. I wanted your opinion.
Simpsons would be great. I agree with you totally.
Next game on your list.
Okay. Next game on my list. Now, we saw with Wind Waker.
Yo.
How amazing the cel-shaded games can look when they're just up-resed. Wind Waker I think the Wind Waker HD remake would look better if it didn't have all that bloom and if they focused a little bit on the jaggy shadows. Yeah. But I think a game that was worth revisiting and seeing in an HD era is Okami.
A game I've not played, but I've seen a lot of. PS2 era, Wii remake.
Yeah, it was PS2, Wii, and then it did get a PS3 HD remake or remaster. But nobody wants to plug in their PS3 again. So let's see it. Cross-platform HD remake. Capcom isn't making new games that anyone cares about. They've said as much about remaking old games. That's why they keep crapping out Mega Man Legacy collections.
Yeah.
So let's just see Okami up-resed. Maybe fix the textures a little bit. It's a great game and it still plays well.
I think the Switch is the perfect place for that because you can play it with the original controls or the Wii controls.
There's no way that they would cordon it off to only Switch, though.
No, but it would be the Switch. Would be like the
Capcom doesn't want to put games on the Switch anyway.
Dude, I know. Fuck Cashcom. Fuck everything they're about. We were just talking about this. What were they saying? You just messaged me about something.
Right. Yeah. It was a Giant Bomb. They were talking with Tim Turi at Capcom, and someone asked him, "Oh yeah, is the Switch ever going to get Legacy Collection or Legacy Collection 2?" And like we saw with Disney Afternoon Collection didn't come out to Switch when all those games originated on the NES. I mean, it's like the doy, come on, Nintendo. And he said, we have nothing to say at this time. Like he gave the canned response that means that those companies are currently talking to each other. So I postulated that Nintendo and Capcom's just playing hard to get because Nintendo doesn't have a huge number of Switches out in the wild. I mean, there's a lot of goodwill and people are buying a lot of games that have the system. But Capcom's just being greedy, and that's why they put out Ultra Street Fighter 2 for $40. And that's like a $20 game for the 360, Like, come on.
A $10 game. There's a bunch of fucking assets from 25 years ago in a game that nobody wants to fucking play. With
like a really half-assed mode attached to it to be like, yeah, sure, we use motion controls.
Yeah.
Which it seems like that wasn't Nintendo saying, hey, add motion controls. It's like Capcom being like, oh, we did it.
We did it.
Spend $40, I guess.
Yeah.
But then also, I wanted to add one more because it's related.
Okay.
Another Capcom game, Beautiful Joe.
Yeah, okay. Beautiful Joe.
Which I had you pick up. That's a GameCube title.
Yeah.
Also came to PS2 later, I believe. But that is a cel-shaded game, has a really distinct art style, and it's a game that scales really well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, a lot of character in that game. Very quirky, very unique. I mean, it's kind of a
it's like a new age beat 'em up.
Yeah. Which I'm all on board for something like that. You know, that's one of the games where it's like, okay, if we got a virtual console, like that's the kind of thing I'd play. I wouldn't. There's not a lot of Nintendo titles I'd play on a GameCube virtual console, to be honest. But something like that, I'd pick up. You know, I didn't know I got a PS2 release though. I thought it was. Well, no,
I'm pretty sure it did.
Yeah, I must have, because there's no way I thought it was an exclusive. But
it was probably timed exclusive, like Resident Evil 4 was.
Yeah,
because that was Capcom. That was Nintendo and Capcom actually working together.
Well, speaking of shitty Capcom and Mega Man, I have the Mega Man X Pack on here.
X Pack, yeah.
X Pack.
Knew you would.
You know, just because the Mega Man X games to me are far more enjoyable than any Mega Man title.
Oh, yeah. I mean, moving around feels a lot better. Wall jumping is sick. And they're a lot easier than the Mega Man games, the original ones. So I appreciate that because the Mega Man games are hard for annoyingly hard's sake.
Yeah, it's less about the gameplay mechanics and being good at the game.
It's memorizing.
Exactly, which is not.
The original Mega Man games are like puzzle games in that way.
Right. If you can memorize the route.
So Mega Man X, it felt better to like play blind.
Right, and you were actually reacting, and you had to have it was skill based fighting these bosses, and
you still had to memorize, and that helped you a lot, but not as much as the original Mega Man games, in my opinion.
It's more about like you're not memorizing pixel for pixel routes of these enemies and like when this thing's going to pop up, whatever. You're memorizing boss patterns, but it's not an identical. It's not just this like the machine that moves in the same way every time, the way the original Mega Mans were.
Well, I mean, they are machines, but they're also like half people sometimes.
Whoa.
Whoa. It's like some sort of Mega Man.
It all makes sense.
Actually, technically,
he's a Rockman.
His name isn't Mega Man. It's X in those games.
It is. Which is way fucking cooler. X and Zero, dude. Zero is my fucking dude.
It's just a letter and a number. Whoa.
It's so simple. No, that'd be really great to get. I know those aren't remakes, but you know, they're beefed up.
We're gonna see an X Legacy collection. Guaranteed. But I even think like the sprite art in those games are fantastic, and I would like to keep the integrity of that. It's also changed enough throughout the iterations that it would be interesting to see what a Mega Man X would look like in the latest Mega Man X style. I haven't even seen it, so I can't even like A/B it to like, oh, that would look better, or no, that would look like shit. So
my number 9, baby. That's all you need to know.
Oh God, don't even say that out loud. What an abortion.
Yeah, dude. That's what I was thinking of. So yeah, no, Mega Man X, that'd be awesome. Mega Man, X4 was my fucking jam growing up. You know what's weird is I've gotten worse at games over time. Like I went back and played Mega Man X4, which, is a classic Mega Man title. I think those first 4 X games were just killer titles.
Right.
But I don't know how I played that game as a kid. I
can tell you why. I can give you 2 reasons why.
Was I more patient then? I don't know.
I don't think you're much worse at video games. I don't think you're noticeably worse. I think you're a lot less patient.
That's true.
And you have a lot more games to play.
That's also true.
When you're a kid, that's your PS1 game. And then your other PS1 game is Episode 1 Racer.
Oh, yeah, right.
That. So, like, you want to play your new game, so you play that game over and over and over and over and over and over and over. So, which Mega Man is great for that. So it's a great kids game.
Here's a random story that no one cares about. There was maybe a 25-year-old man who lived next door to us, him and his wife. And I would go over there and he'd be outside or whatever. I don't know how. He was a neighbor. We knew him, right? And so I go over and bug him. And one day he's like, "Oh, I've got this PlayStation 1," and I would go over there and I would play his PlayStation 1 because he had way more games than we did. Because I got a PS1 when I was 6, but we had 3 games. So I go over and play all these fancy new games and see all the rated M games I wasn't allowed to play or whatever. And one day I was playing Mega Man and I was so in love with it. And he just was like, "Oh, you can take it home if you want. You can have it." And so that's where I got my copy of Mega Man. Was my neighbor sent me home with it, probably because he didn't want me coming over and knocking on his door every day to play his PlayStation.
Probably a little bit that, and also because he was like, "I'm too old for this Mega Man game." But dude, that was a great game. I'm just picturing the cover of the disc, so tight. I love doing the cheat where you could play as Zero right from the beginning. So tight.
And you get the full suit. There's a cheat you get the full suit in the beginning.
The Black Zero. Right?
With the Black Zero, you take half damage. That's one of the cheats. You take half damage in the Black Zero suit. But there was one where you get all your upgrades at the very beginning. So you're like flying around with these jet boots and you're fucking...
Yeah, you can do the air dash and the Hadoken.
Yeah, all the cool things. Yeah.
I only have one more game on my list. I'll be completely honest with you.
Holy shit. I have so many more games.
I'm not prepared. Okay, this is the one I was talking about being 2D, but would be great as a 3D remake.
Okay.
I want a Golden Sun trilogy.
Okay.
I never played the third one, but the first two are excellent JRPGs. And the way those sprites are, like they kind of want to go for the 3D look anyway.
Right.
So it would lend itself really well to a 3D remake. And I would just love that. And I don't even know what that studio is doing nowadays. I think they're just making sports titles, which is a sad fate. I mean, I'm sure those games sell well, and there's a reason that they keep shoveling out, but I don't need another Mario Tennis game, you know? I don't need Mario horse racing. I don't need Mario goes to the Olympics again.
Oh, no one's asking for those games. That's like modern shovelware.
Well, I mean, it's only Nintendo that does the first-party shovelware like that. It's because they're the only ones that's actively reaching for a younger audience.
Really? Just Dance 2017? Really?
Okay, so...
Really?
But that's like a mobile title also. And like, they have SingStar. They still make those. That's a phone game.
Technology is crazy, man.
Weird, right?
Imagine some of these things even like 5 years ago, let alone 15 years ago when we're like growing up playing games.
That's when all those like shovelware games died. It was 5 years ago.
Yeah, and thank God too. They can live and die on mobile where they belong.
Yeah, it just clutters up game shelves.
Yeah, absolutely. Though I briefly played Golden Sun. I remember you playing them growing up, and you talked about them very fondly in the years since. So I feel like that'd be awesome. Like any chance to like reimagine a beloved cult game. Would you consider that like a cult game, or did it get its due when they were?
I think it's got its due. I mean, it sold well enough to sell 3 titles. You know,
the DS one you can still buy new, like on Amazon. They still are sitting in a warehouse somewhere.
That game wasn't received really well.
It's like you can't buy Pokemon games that came out 3 years ago. You can't find them new anymore. But like a DS game from 10 years ago is available for $12 sealed.
Yeah, Golden Sun sold 1.7 million. Golden Sun Lost Age sold 1.2, and then Dark Dawn sold for 800,000. So a steady trend downwards.
Yeah, but respectable, given the...
Yeah, I mean, better than Metroid numbers, basically.
Yeah, which is pretty wild. Hell yeah. No, like I said, I love seeing games like that reimagined and sort of having a new way to explore that world and experience things. So I have quite a few more games on the list here. Some of them we'll be very brief about, and I know that some of these will get shut down instantly, but in a perfect world, I would be able to play these on my HD television.
Okay, hit me.
Okay. All right. Holy shit, where do I start? Okay, something that we've talked about before. I want a Paper Mario dual pack.
Yeah.
Completely remake those games in the style and with the assets in the engine of Color Splash. The first 2 Paper Mario games, the classic RPGs.
Well, I mean, they'd have to completely remake every other character that isn't a Toad. But like, I know what you're saying. That was a great art style. I loved the way like Color Splash looked. I just wish that it was the gameplay from the original games. And a lot of people want that, but obviously internally, and Miyamoto has his own ideas, and that's what basically they've said in interviews. But they want to differentiate the Mario and Luigi being more of an RPG with the Paper Mario being another platform. I don't know what they think the identity of Paper Mario is. When that was like the OG, that was their JRPG. That was a sequel to Super Mario RPG, which was a team up with Square.
Yeah.
And they're the RPG masters. So I don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing because every game has been something different.
And I don't think they've sold any better. I think probably Thousand Year Door sold the best for them. Paper Mario, the original one, was super late in the N64's lifespan. I don't know if it garnered enough attention to sell very well.
Maybe people aren't asking for it. Maybe that's just my own echo chamber where people said, oh, it'd be really great to get another Paper Mario game. But I think that'd be perfect. Don't touch the games at all, Nintendo. Don't update anything. Those, as sort of Babby's first RPG, those work flawlessly the way they are. Just give them to us exactly the way you made them and you know, dual pack it up. It'd be a beautiful game. It'd be a great little trip down nostalgia lane there.
No, yeah, they would get a lot of good faith from their fan base also. That's like another Metroid basically, where people keep asking for something specifically and Nintendo won't give it because it hasn't sold well, but to the masses.
Yeah.
We're seeing another Metroid Prime, so who knows? Maybe this is like a corner that Nintendo's taking to instill more goodwill with their audience.
I think the Metroid thing was more about optics than anything. They said, "Oh, this will show well. Here's a quick splash screen."
The same thing, right?
Paper Mario wouldn't show well. Like, "Oh, we've been asking for a Paper Mario game." It's like, "Oh, great." People would see that come up on the screen, and be like, "Oh, great, another
That's because
fucking
we've
Paper
been
Mario
burned
game."
by 3 Paper Mario games, and we haven't been burned like that with Metroid games. We got Federation Force, and that's been like the big burn. But seeing a Metroid Prime game, that instills more goodwill than just seeing Samus pop up.
All right.
Which is why they didn't show the 3DS game on stage or in the direct.
On stage,
Because if you just saw a 3DS game, everyone would be pissed. But because they kind of like just threw it out there, everyone got excited because of that. It's all about the presentation.
Absolutely. And I think they nailed it. They nailed it this year, which hopefully by the time this goes up, they'll have heard our E3 reactions. So we'll see what happens. But all right, next on my list here, I've got a kind of a 3-pack of like sleeper picks that I don't think could happen because a lot of licensing issues. The first one here especially. But hear me out. Let me pitch this, all right?
I swear to God, if you say anything Harry Potter, I'm going to be pissed.
No. I thought about it. I saw it. I just want a good Harry Potter game. Like the Lego Harry Potter game is the best Harry Potter game.
That's because Warner knows what they're doing, man. Traveler's Tales, they make good games.
Yeah. So, okay, hear me out. Let me pitch this here. Tony Hawk pack, okay?
Pro Skater 5.
Oh, God, no. I want a classic Tony Hawk game. Like, the pinnacle of the series, I think, was probably Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. Because they...
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Well, 3, they added in, like, the manual, so you could really have...
You could manual in 2.
Could you? I don't think you could.
Pretty sure you could. I think 3 added wall writing.
I have to double check that, but I feel like 3 is when the controls really hit.
The biggest thing they added in 3 was the level editor.
Oh, that was awesome. That was really great.
It was really tight, very bare bones, but like anything added was a huge addition. Just having new levels, basically.
Well, so the Tony Hawk pack, it could be the trilogy, it could be the first 4, it could be...
Honestly, with a game like that iterated so well upon itself, I would say just give me the latest in that series that was still good. So like Tony Hawk 3 with like maybe some additions from 4. I don't remember what 4 added at all, personally. But then just have all the levels and the characters from 1 and 2.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, it could be just a mega pack. Yeah, just kind of an amalgamation.
And like the music, that's like the big thing. It's literally the soundtrack is what... That was like half of that game was a soundtrack.
Absolutely. It's key. If you can't get the same soundtrack, I don't want the game.
And that's obviously been the biggest reason why they haven't been able to like re-release those games.
I don't know. That's I don't even know who owns that IP anymore.
That's Activision.
And Activision is now owned by... No, Activision is like huge, and they own...
No, yeah, they were bought out by Vivendi along with Blizzard, but then they bought themselves back out. So They are very much so the biggest AAA publisher right now.
Okay. How crazy is that?
At least I think they are. Them and Take-Two are pretty high up there because Take-Two owns 2K and Rockstar. You know.
Yeah. I'd pay $60 for because Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5 sucked. It was terrible. The physics were bad. The graphics were bad.
Oh yeah, it was panned.
But if you can give me a game that just looks beautiful but has the same physics and those nostalgic the levels and
I don't even need it to look very beautiful. Just give it to me again.
We played Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 when you were down here.
Oh man, it holds up.
And it feels so good.
The only thing I would want is for it to load faster.
Yeah.
If it looked exactly the same with like crappy loading, like icons zooming in and out and like all that, and like the crappy like skateboard noises when you're like switching between icons.
Yes.
I don't care. Like that's part of the charm for me.
It feels so good.
I kind of want to actually like rebuy those games on PC because I think you could still find them.
Really?
Pretty sure. I mean, I remember I had a PC demo.
Yeah.
For Tony Hawk 2 or 3.
Okay.
And I remember playing that demo over and over because you were just playing Venice. And it was so weird. I didn't know how to use the keyboard controls because I didn't have a gamepad
to
play on my computer. So like I was trying to like ollie and I didn't know how to ollie. And I figured it out, but I don't know any of the other buttons.
That's funny. Man, you remember old PC games? You get like demos in like cereal boxes and shit? Like Captain Crunch had a fucking game. You remember that? It was awesome. It was like a weird RPG.
That's a valuable IP.
Dude, I wonder if you can find that online.
That'll be our next podcast, is a deep dive into the Captain Crunch RPG and the Captain Crunch series.
Yeah, the lore behind, the rise and fall of the captain himself.
Or how about just food and beverage video games?
Dude,
play Cool Spot, play the Chester Cheeto games,
Burger King, I think, had a series of games on the Wii.
No, 360.
360? Oh, wow. How fucked up was that?
Yeah, it was like a hide and seek game, but it was like Sea King.
Stop it. Stop it.
No, yeah, and like they actually had physical copies of those games.
They did.
Just the disc, yeah.
We just came up with an idea for a pod. We're going to go through and play these games and give a real technical breakdown. All right. Well, here, let me move on to the next one because we've been recording for a while. We didn't want to make this a 3-hour podcast, so...
yeah, what else you got? You need like the best ones.
Well, I'm going through the rest of my list. I'm just going to go a little quicker.
Oh, great.
NBA Street Volume 2. The best of the Street games, I would argue.
I would counter and say I'd rather have NBA Jam, but not do an HD version. Do another like Mortal Kombat, just photos of actual players style where they're on a green screen.
Yeah.
Give me that, but like in high def. That'd be hilarious, I think.
Well, I think the thing
Why haven't they done that?
Well, probably the widespread appeal isn't there. It's a nifty thought, but
It'd be super easy to do, easier than mocapping.
yeah, I think though, like we got NBA Playgrounds, right? Which has been a fine experience.
Yeah, it hasn't been received super well.
It didn't really deliver on the promise, but NBA Street Volume 2, really all the NBA Street games, they were full-fledged games. They had career modes, they had plenty of multiplayer options, and it was deep enough gameplay. Like NBA Jam is just like pass, shoot, you're on fire.
Pass, shoot, and steal. Hello.
Well, duh.
You could basically
you could
hurt
block
each other.
Yeah, you could punch people upside the dick. NBA Street was a much more, sort of fully fledged feature pack game. And my buddy Brendan came down a few months ago and we sat and played a career mode together, started a team and went on tour and just 2-playered the fuck out of that. And it was awesome. I think a modern version of that game, like you don't even need current NBA players to make that happen. It's more about the arcade style and the arcade nature of that game. So it would maybe not a remake, but that would be something that'd be awesome to get on the Virtual Console or on like PlayStation Network.
Or that could be a new mode in NBA Live 2018.
Fuck that game. We talked about that last pod. Fuck that. Fuck EA. No, EA. EA really did fine this year. They did all right. They did okay. Good for them.
I think everyone across the board, they did all right.
It was a good
job,
year.
Everyone.
It's a good year.
You met my low standards.
I know, so to say. It takes a lot to really disappoint you, Nick.
That's one of my most redeeming qualities. Famously agreeable.
Famously agreeable. Oh, shouts out. All right, check it out. Here's something that I don't think you would have assumed I could have picked.
Spyro.
No, that is on my list. We don't have to get into that too much. Here's a fucking game for you. SSX Tricky 2.
Yeah, I mean, people really like those SSX games. I don't know what happened to them. I feel like they kind of just petered off. They were still going in the 360.
They didn't do enough to evolve, and they came out too frequently, and people just got sick of them, like Guitar Hero or something.
You don't need to do much to evolve to that.
No. SSX Tricky 2 was the perfect game.
I never played 2. I played the first one.
You had to have played 2 because we played the shit out of that together. I
just remember playing SSX Tricky. I don't remember Tricky 2.
Oh, man, my games are packed up. I was going to show you the cover. I think you would remember Tricky 2 if you look up that cover. I remember...
The only thing I remember is someone wearing an orange snowboarding jacket. Or wearing orange. I think it was a girl on the cover.
Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe SSX Tricky, because SSX was just the first game, right? Okay, so SSX Tricky is what I'm thinking of. Yeah, the chick in the orange jacket.
Yeah.
Dude with the afro. Okay, that's the game I'm thinking of.
I remember that because every time you would activate like the mode, it would play the Run DMC song. It's tricky to rock around to rock around. That's right on time. It's tricky.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah. So SSX 3, I've got that on GameCube. Don't know if it's any good. So there was SSX, and then I think there was SSX Tricky, and then SSX 3. Mm-hmm. So Tricky, I think, was the second one.
Yeah, I thought it was 1, 2, 3 Tricky, but you're probably right.
Yeah. Okay, so that's why I'm thinking it was SSX. Anyway, so yeah, that's the one. We're thinking of the same game. A remake of that would be awesome. Fuck yeah. I mean, but again, you guys get the soundtrack right. But there aren't any weird licensing issues with that. I think that was all first party stuff that they commissioned.
Yep, again, that's EA.
So that'd be awesome, man. I'd be all over that.
Yeah, SSX had some weird releases. I'm looking at it right now and I'm seeing there was SSX 1, Tricky, 3, On Tour.
Ooh.
Which had a PS2 release in 2005. And then on PSP, then SSX Blur on the Wii, which was an exclusive, and then there hasn't been anything since then.
Well, bring it back.
Rough. There was an N-Gage SSX game. I think that that sums it up right there.
You want to talk about abortion, dude? Is the end? Everything about the N-Gage was the opposite of good.
I'm trying to get a full collection of the Nokia N-Gage games.
That would actually cost you a lot of money, I think. I think there's some really...
Oh, yeah, probably. Really obscure.
Hard to find.
Didn't make any of them.
Yeah. So,
all right, give me some more.
All right. We're going to wrap this up quick here. There's just a couple things that I think you'll shoot me down for real quick.
Spyro, I think you're totally right. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I also think that Activision wouldn't do it unless the Insane trilogy sells well.
I pray to God every night that it does. I hope that game delivers. It looks like it should by all other standards, or by all other metrics. Like, this game is going to be awesome, right?
I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a very good revisitation of those games, but I also think that people remember them better, remember them more fondly than they actually are. So I could see it just not selling well, or people just not caring about Crash Bandicoot, But I also think that Crash is the bigger IP compared to Spyro. Spyro kind of got beaten to the dirt once they got sold, or I think Activision just bought the rights and then just made it for everything. So you got a lot of GameCube titles, a lot of Wii titles, and then it kind of was the birthplace of Skylanders. And then, so I think that just people have a less fond remembrance of Spyro just because it's still kind of recent in memory.
Because Crash kind of fell off. We haven't had a classic Crash game since the PlayStation 1, and it had a couple kart racers.
Game Boy Advance. There was Crash games. Well, you know what I mean, though. He's still there.
Spyro had several games. They just weren't good.
There was Crash games on GameCube and Wii, I think.
But that was one of those racers. There wasn't a platformer.
No, real Crash games. Real platforming Crash games.
Really? I have to check that out. I had no idea.
Yeah, I downloaded one just to check it out, and it was really weird, because it was Crash, and he transformed into a bigger, beefier version of Crash to fight enemies. It was, I don't know. I don't think the Crash games I don't have any nostalgia for them, so I don't have an attachment to them at all.
I'm going to make you play the Instant Trilogy with me. It's going to happen.
Great.
He's not excited about this. So Spyro, yeah, I want it. We've talked about it. Give it to me.
Spider-Man 2.
No, I actually considered that, but then I was we're getting a new Spider-Man game. If that game doesn't deliver, then yeah, just port the fucking Spider-Man 2 game. It's the best Spider-Man game ever.
What? If they make that Tony Hawk game, it's in the same engine as Tony Hawk.
Really?
Little fun fact for you. Yeah.
Deep cut, dude. Next on my list here, Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Oh, that'd be great. Everyone would understand what that means.
Yeah. No, this will never happen, but...
Oh, no. I'd be surprised if we got any sort of old Star Wars games revisited at all. It'd be cool. I know a lot of people have fond memories of Rogue Squadron. And what was the space shooter on GameCube? Launch title, I believe.
Rogue. It was the Rogue Squadron. Rebel Strike was the third one.
Something Galaxy? Rebel Galaxy?
No. It was a Rogue Squadron. It was either Rogue Squadron or... what
was the N64 one then?
Oh, God. Okay. Star Wars.
The original story. But those games people remember, and they're kind of ambitious.
Rogue Squadron was the 64 one.
Okay.
And then we had
Rebel Alliance,
Rogue Leader, and Rebel Strike.
Rogue Leader. That's the dogfighting space combat one.
I mean, it was just...
I believe that was a launch title.
It was. It was a direct sequel to... It was Rogue Squadron 2.
That's tight.
Yeah. And then we had Rebel Strike, Rogue Squadron 3.
And who made those? Was that EA?
Oh, God. Who made them? It was developed by Factor 5.
That means nothing to me because I have no idea who they are.
And it was published by LucasArts and EA, so...
Oh, yeah. LucasArts. That was when there's still a thing. I forgot.
Once upon a time.
The glory days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You and I we've had many hours playing Battlefront 2. A lot of times just hanging out. Just the Clone Wars stuff was such a great tie-in. That was probably one of the best tie-in games I've ever played.
Dude, you know what we're playing next time you're down here? We're playing fucking Battlefront.
Tony Hawk.
Also Tony Hawk. All of it. It's all going to happen. I was telling you earlier, I got a new couch, dude. It's fucking cush. It is so comfy, and it's huge. We could both sleep on it, dude.
Granddaddy Kush.
Granddaddy. Obama Kush.
420 lazy.
Well, anyway, Battlefront 2. We don't need to get into what made that game great. I think we all know at this point, and we know that EA has not been sort of delivering on.
Well, I couldn't even tell you what made that game great. All I remember is having good memories of it at this point.
Fair enough. So Battlefront 2, a couple of things that was so awesome about it.
I know you always talk about that Galactic Conquest mode.
Yeah.
Because you're a huge dork and you love board games.
That's true. But even like, okay, so the dogfighting, the space battles was awesome, which we didn't really get in Battlefront 1. And I hope we get in Battlefront 2. The Jedi only mode, the hero mode or whatever, where you just like ran around, you got to take your pick of all the Star Wars heroes.
It was like an arena fighter. It was like, wasn't there a game that was just that?
Star Wars Episode 3 was a fucking fighting game on the PS2.
Yeah. It was like a weird third-person 3D arena fighter.
Well, if I recall, it was just like a 2D like fighter. Maybe I'm misremembering the Star Wars Episode 3, but I remember it being a fighter, and I played the fuck out of it. But but Battlefront 2, the hero mode was awesome because you just were like, okay, I'm Yoda, and I'm just running around, and I'm gonna go cut up, Darth Maul, and Princess Leia just killed me. Like, that's awesome.
Oh dang, here's Dooku.
Yeah. Dooku.
Another one for my collection, Grievous.
Dooku. I hate
Hello
that name.
there.
Dooku. All right, we're done with this. But yeah, so there's just a few of the reasons it was so great. The story mode was awesome, like we talked about in the last podcast, following the 501st, I think it was, the clone troopers, and seeing that bleed over into the Galactic Empire era. And so I think that still like has enough of a player base online still. You can go get it on Steam and play that with your friends.
Yeah, but I think EA would rather sell you a $60 game that they're supporting.
How cool would it be, though, if they were like, how it might have been with Battlefront. I can't remember what it was, but there were a bunch of old Star Wars games on the PS2 that got released if you bought, I don't know if it's you bought a game or a special edition console, but it came with all these PS2 games on the PS4.
Now picture this.
Tell me.
Imagine, if you will.
Okay.
You purchase Battlefront 2, the actual one's coming out this year.
Right.
And then like a month down the line, there's free DLC pack, whatever they do, but it's a demake, and it makes everything look like the PS2 textures and low polygon count.
I don't want it to just look like
game.
it. No, fuck that. What's the point of that? I want
just to completely mess with you.
Just to make it look like shit. But oh my god, when I got my Vita, first thing I did was go onto the PSN network and buy the PSP version, which is a pretty stripped down version. But the PSP version sucked because you only had one analog stick on the PSP, and so I got the Vita version, remapped my controls so I could play it like the PS2 version. And even though a lot of the features were missing, a lot of the game modes, and it looked like shit, it still felt like Star Wars Battlefront 2, and so I really enjoyed just fucking around with that.
You couldn't get the PS2 version on Vita?
No, they don't, unfortunately.
Dang.
Yeah, I don't know why they haven't done that. It'd be fucking awesome.
It was probably licensing. The PSP version was just recent enough.
Yeah.
Or they had the online store for PSP.
And like in the month build up to Battlefront 1, I whipped out the old PlayStation and played the shit out of
I'm just saying
2.
the PSP had an actual online store. So
right.
The licensing, when they had the deal for that, just ran longer. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Speaking of Star Wars, my second to last game here.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Episode 1 Racer.
Hey man, that'd be cool.
Dude,
or a sequel.
blur.
A true sequel, dude. Honestly, think about that. An F-Zero
Episode
style
2 Racer.
Oh god.
A Clone Wars Racer. You're just running on that weird. You're running around on that weird dinosaur or like the lizards that Obi-Wan Kenobi rides on.
On
fights or
after
Grievous,
fighting Grievous. Yeah, that weird ass lizard on.
You're just running out of a weird pit.
On Utapau. Hell yeah. No, I think an F-Zero style racer with the Star Wars property, like that's an instant hit right there. Hello,
obviously,
EA.
Episode 1 Racer it sold well.
Yeah, I mean that was a different time though. That was obviously right in the hype of Star Wars,
but it was also still just a direct like clone of Wipeout and F-Zero.
Yeah,
it was that future, that floaty but really really fast racing game.
Yeah, give it to us, EA. We want it. But speaking of Star Wars, man, Knights of the Old Republic.
KOTOR.
Let's do both. Let's do fucking both. Dual pack. Let's do it again. I want the OG game because those games still hold up. I think the combat still works.
The sequel is just the Old Republic, right?
No. That's
or is that the MMO?
MMO.
Okay.
Which is started off not great. I beta tested that and never went back. Yeah, KOTOR 1 and 2. And KOTOR 2 would give me the remake with all the expanded content because they just dropped.
Was it KOTOR 1 that the original developers like went back and added a bunch of?
No, it was the second
was
one.
That too? Okay, but still, like that shows interest from the developers themselves. That wasn't current BioWare I feel like have had a lot of
It was Obsidian.
changes in staff. Was that Obsidian?
I think who did the second game, I think it was Obsidian, yeah.
Obsidian. What a weird studio.
Let me look it up. Actually, I'm going to...
They just do weird sequels. Like they did Fallout New Vegas.
Here it is. It doesn't say anything about Obsidian on here, but it doesn't say anything about anybody. It just says LucasArts. Oh, Obsidian, there it is. Well, the second one was very highly regarded, but what happened was they cut the whole ending of the game because they wanted to get it out in the holiday season. So they said, fuck the rest of it and just put it out. So after 10 years, the original developers released a mod that restored all of the content that was supposed to be there.
That's really tight.
So after 10 years, it's a complete game. And I think that'd be cool to do a dual pack remake, complete visual overhaul. You know, even if you got to use the fucking, you know, I don't know, the shitty...
Frostbite engine.
Like, use all the assets from the new Mass Effect game. Yeah, I don't care. Give me those wonky facial animations.
Nah, you know they're never going to... What a blight on EA's face, man.
That's pretty bad.
Oh, man.
Did you ever play the KOTOR games?
No.
Oh, man, you're missing out.
Watched Austin play, and it seems like maybe not the game that I'd be interested in, because I'm not really interested in the Star Wars property. So, like, a lot of the stuff that's like Easter eggs and kind of for the fans, it wouldn't affect me at all. So it would just be like, what do I say to this? Oh, I said this. I guess I'm evil now? Oh, I didn't get the force power I wanted. Well, I don't want to play this while looking at a guide, so I'm just going to play really unoptimally and just feel bad.
Damn, dude, you are really fucking boiling this down to an unappetizing dish. Like,
well, that's my job.
Wow.
I'm not easily disappointed, but I kind of feel bad about some games.
Fair enough. Honestly, I think they hold up. I think the combat works. The story is still there. Just give me flashy, sexy new graphics and a dual release, and you know, profit.
What was the game with Starkiller?
The Force Unleashed games.
Force Unleashed. Do you think that? Would you like to see those remade?
Remade. I'd rather have a fully fledged remake, not an updated port. But the problem with those is that they fit into the canon, the old canon.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that was pre-Disney.
Yeah, so they have to sort of redo all of that, and they've established so much of Darth Vader's history now that I don't think that Starkiller could come back in a meaningful way.
And they couldn't like put those out as, because what do they call the old
Legends
universe? Legends. They couldn't say a Star Wars Legends.
Maybe they could. But if they were to do a full remake, they'd want to market this as like, you know, it'd be a AAA title, and they wouldn't want
to remake it, but replace Starkiller with Rey, and it could be her story before she gets brain wiped.
Whoa.
Did I just blow your mind? Is that a good idea, or is that a bad idea?
It's a bad idea because she would be like,
I don't know anything about that game. So.
She'd be like 2 years old. No, so it's a story of Darth Vader who has an apprentice, a secret apprentice, Starkiller.
Sounds like a fanfic already.
Yeah.
That name doesn't make it any better.
Well, the Starkiller is a classic Star Wars name because Luke used to be Luke Starkiller before Skywalker.
Yeah, I know, but George Lucas doesn't write good things.
No, George Lucas is bad.
Skywalker isn't really any better either.
It's really not. But
good. Do you get it? Because they're in space.
Whoa. Skywalker base, dude. Wait, that's not right.
Oh, I know. Let's make them brother and sister.
After 2 awkward kisses in the second movie.
Also, we could make 5 movies, but since we're only making 3, let's just kill Jango in a stupid way, or Boba in a stupid way. Have him flail like awkwardly into a pit.
Yeah, he didn't die, man. He had a jetpack.
Hey, man, that's just a Legends.
That is now, but, you know, we'll see what happens.
Hey, man.
The new canon, new movie.
Jango had a jetpack too, but that didn't stop Mace Windu from chopping his head off.
Yeah, but to be fair, Boba didn't get his fucking head chopped off. He just fell into a pit that you will die from starvation before the Sarlacc monster kills you, because it's a piece of shit monster that takes 1,000 years to digest its food. Like, you can jetpack his ass out of there before it happened. I want that game, dude. Give me the fucking Boba Fett game. I don't want a movie. Give me the game.
Like the Witcher style, but you can fly.
Hell yeah, dude. Remember the Jango Fett games on our game on PS2? I thought that game was awesome.
Never played it.
It's not fondly remembered. But I had another point to make about the Old Republic, and I lost it because we were talking about other things. Oh, fucking well. Last game on my list. More of a port, more of an update, so that we can...
A remaster, not a remake?
Yeah, I mean, even visual fidelity to be identical, as I stutter and sputter here. It would just be about the resolution itself.
Tetris.
Mario Galaxy Double Pack Tetris. Mario Galaxy Double Pack, dude. Update those. Bring them to the Switch. You can have.
That definitely need an up-res.
Oh yeah, but like the fidelity, like it's there. You just need to remake 1080p assets, but it doesn't need more bloom or this or that. It's just like it looks flawless the way it is. So, but again, give me modern controls or have the option of using the waggle controls. I don't know if that's possible, but I think they could bake it in somehow.
I think it's mostly fine because your main action in the game was that weird spin thing, which you did by just shaking either of the controllers. And that could have easily been mapped to a button, but they're using the 2 buttons on the right on the Wiimote for other stuff. I don't know. But yeah, there was like a pointer mechanic where you used it to gather star bits.
Yeah.
And they've shown, what's that game? World of Goo? That was a port from the Wii that made its way over to the Switch.
Right.
Where they just had a way where you would center it by pressing a button, and then that would reestablish where the controller is supposed to be pointing out on your screen. So they could manage to do something like that, I think.
They decided to do that. I think it's more likely we get a sequel in the next couple of years, after Odyssey dies down.
Yeah, I can see that. It would still be weird, though, because it would be a game where you don't have control over the camera.
Huh. I don't think that, depending on how it works.
Because if I don't know how they would make that game where you can control the camera, just because when you're going upside down, being able to move the camera around would be very, very bizarre and disorienting. And it already is like somewhat disorienting, but it works well enough as it is. Like it makes sense while you're playing it. It's tough to explain. You need to play those games. You really do.
Look at Super Mario 3D World. Like you didn't control the camera in that, and that worked fine.
Yeah, but you weren't really running around upside down. You were just sort of staying like in this isometric kind of viewpoint the entire time. Yeah, which works really well, and that's why the platforming feels so tight. Is because everything has a very like solid and steady relationship with each other. Whereas Galaxy, it worked really well with the dynamic camera motion and the moving gravity.
Right.
Was like the way the platforming worked. And it was a very forgiving game.
It's more likely that those get another VC release when Switch gets the Virtual Console up and running. If it gets the Virtual Console up and running. Yeah, that's a big question to see if it has enough power to actually natively run GameCube and Wii games. It should, right? I don't know. It depends on how well they make the emulator. They're really going to have to workshop that emulator. It was a while ago, but when the specs were kind of postulated and guessed and leaked or whatever, Digital Foundry took a Shield tablet and ran the Dolphin emulator on it, and we're getting some decent frame rates, some like not very playable frame rates depending on the game. Like I think Double Dash was running at like 24 FPS when that's a 60 FPS game. That's not good. Which, that is not good. Not ideal. That's also not optimal because you're running the Shield OS and then you're also running a emulator that's been kind of cobbled together on a game by game basis throughout the years. So if Nintendo could have one less step in between, who knows? It might be able to run a little bit better. And I'm not sure how the Switch compares power wise to what was thought the power would be back then. Well, what I feel like, and this is totally uninformed, what I feel like is happening is that they are workshopping a GameCube emulator, and they're trying to get that right before they announce Virtual Console, which means we're not getting Game Boy and we're not getting Super Nintendo and all these things. Nintendo somehow thinks that would distract them from what the Switch is, and like they don't want that to affect other game sales. Like this weird thing. So they're waiting until the Switch establishes itself and they get the GameCube up and running, and then they can announce everything. But it just is like a weird thing, and it's preventing us from playing the games we want on like a system that finally like delivers on the Wii U's promise. Either that, or like you said, they're potentially pushing for a GameCube emulator, or they're trying to work out any of the kinks with the N64 emulator, which historically has been a difficult system to emulate properly and actually accurately. And they're trying to get that all up and running before they launch the online, and maybe that's another thing that's kind of keeping them from launching the online. I don't know. Well, that seems like quite the little thing to stop an entire. Well, it's part of their like online infrastructure is them adding to this growing library of games that you're that's accessible while you're paying for them. Yeah. So we don't know exactly what that entails. They've been very light with information regarding that. Those SOBs.
But I mean, they're learning at least a little bit. Sounds a lot better than renting 2 games a month.
Yeah, that was weird. That the whole
And
phrasing.
it's a great price.
Well, shit, man. This has been our shortest pod in a very long time.
And it's still an hour and a half.
Yeah, Jesus. Well, hey, that's okay. That's a sweet spot, man. 90 minutes, sweet spot.
What's our email address? So we can have people email us. Even though, okay, so here's the thing. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Okay.
A lot of them have, they have a call to action. They want people to email them. They want people to rate them on iTunes, whatever. I never have any incentive to do that. I don't want to open up an email client and type out their email.
No, Twitter, Facebook.
I'm not that. Yeah, I'd rather hit them up on Twitter. So hit us up on Twitter. I'm Presh Till Death. EJ is eJiggle. It's spelled exactly how you think it is. Mine is spelled kind of how you think it is. It's like fresh, but with a P.
We also have a Twitter account that we do monitor, which is console_crusade.
Do you actually monitor that?
Yeah, man, I got my tweet deck right up in here.
I don't monitor it. So if you want to get a hold of EJ, tweet at him or at the Console Crusade Twitter.
Yeah, I think we're console_crusade, and then we're just console crusade on Facebook, I believe. So,
because literally, if anybody talks to us on the internet, I'll read it out loud and I'll respond to it.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Yeah, give us your thoughts, your opinions. We are console.crusade.podcast@gmail.com if you've got any inquiries,
Yeah, if you want to type out all those letters.
Yeah.
One of these days, we'll buy our own domain and we'll be like a real big boy website. But until then, we're stuck with Gmail.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Leaf is not allowed to text me about podcast stuff anymore. Leaf, if you're listening, you have to go through our Console Crusade podcast email. All right.
Or Twitter. I know you've made a Twitter at least once. I think I follow you still.
So we always mention this Leaf guy, and I know we've got scattered listeners all over the U.S. and outside. He's a friend of ours, big old nerd like the both of us. We're gonna bring him on in the next 3 or 4 weeks. He will make his first official appearance on the Console Crusade podcast.
If you want to be mentioned on the podcast and talked about as if you're our friend, you have to talk to us about our podcast like Leaf does.
Yeah, or if you want me to just sit here and say mean things about you, I'll concoct some sort of terrible story. You just give us an email, and I'll start writing.
If you want to be negged by strangers on the internet, another hot tip is you can just leave a comment on a YouTube video, and a lot of strangers will call you mean, nasty things.
Yeah, it saved me the hassle of thinking of something creative. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, this has been the Console Crusade podcast. I'm EJ Olson. This is not EJ Olson. This is Nick Durheim.
Hey, you're learning.
Yeah. Catch us next time.
Yeah, ka-chow.